All right, so every February 14th, the world just explodes in red. Hearts, flowers, you name it. But, for a lot of Muslims, Valentine's Day is, well, it's not that simple. It really brings up this whole mix of questions about faith, culture, and, identity. So let's dive right in and unpack the Islamic perspective on this huge global day of love.
And look, on the surface, it seems like a pretty simple question, right? I mean, love is universal. So what's all the debate about? Well, that's the central puzzle we're going to solve together in this explainer. We're going to dig into the core principles that really guide this whole conversation in Islam.
Okay, so first things first, it's really important to get this. In Islam, you don't just, accept or reject cultural stuff on a whim. Nope. Everything gets looked at through a very specific framework, a set of sources that give guidance on, well, pretty much all aspects of life.
And these are the four key lenses we're talking about. You've got the Qur'an, which is God's direct word. Then there's the Sunnah, which is the example set by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Third is scholarly understanding, or fiqh. That's basically the whole process of figuring out how to apply these core principles to our lives today. And finally, you have the concept of aqidah, which is all about maintaining a distinct Islamic identity. All right, so let's put this framework to the test. And the best place to start? History. Let's ask the question, where did Valentine's Day actually come from? I think the answer might surprise you.
So if you look at this timeline, it's pretty clear that the roots of Valentine's Day are way outside of Islamic tradition. I mean, it kicked off as a Roman pagan festival called Lupercalia. Then, fast forward to the Middle Ages, it gets tied to a Christian saint and romantic traditions. And then, bam, in the 20th century, it just explodes into the massive commercial holiday that we all know today.
Okay, so now that we've got the history down, let's dive into the core Islamic principles. These are absolutely key to understanding the scholarly view on this whole thing. And this first principle is a really, really important one. In Islam, a festival, an Eid, it's not just a cultural party or a day off. No, it's seen as a divinely legislated act of worship, something specifically set apart by God.
And according to the tradition, there are only 3 of these designated festivals. You have Eid al-Fitr, which is the big celebration at the end of Ramadan. Then there's Eid al-Adha, right after the Hajj pilgrimage. And, of course, the weekly gathering for Friday prayer, Jumu'ah.
This saying from the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, really drives this point home. He said that Allah has replaced other celebrations with 2 better days, Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha. It really emphasizes this idea that Muslims have their own distinct days for celebration. So this brings us to a second really key principle, and it's a concept called Tashabbuh. Now, what is that? It's basically the idea of maintaining a distinct spiritual identity by, well, avoiding the imitation of rituals and celebrations that are specific to other religious traditions.
And the foundation for that principle is this very well-known statement from the Prophet: whoever imitates a people is one of them. Now, for scholars, this isn't about, being isolated from everyone else. Not at all. It's about preserving a unique spiritual identity. So, since Valentine's Day has those pagan and Christian roots we talked about, celebrating it is often seen as this kind of imitation.
Okay, so at this point, you might be thinking, whoa, wait a minute. Is Islam against love and affection? And the answer is a huge, definite no. This is such a crucial point to understand. The issue isn't with love itself. It's all about how and when that love is expressed.
I mean, just listen to this beautiful verse from the Qur'an. It says that among God's signs is that He created spouses for us and placed affection and mercy between them. So the love between a husband and wife, that's described as a divine sign. It's a cornerstone of the faith, something to be deeply cherished.
So really, what we have here are 2 different models for romance. On one side, you have the general culture around Valentine's Day, which often promotes this kind of unrestricted expression, including premarital relationships. But on the other side, you have the Islamic framework, which encourages channeling all that powerful emotion and love within marriage, guided by principles like modesty and, halal boundaries.
So what's the alternative then? Well, instead of pouring all that energy into one single day of the year, Islam really promotes a model where love and affection are just woven into the fabric of daily life.
Yeah, the whole emphasis is on consistency. It's about strengthening that marital bond every single day. It's about expressing love through your character, through being kind, giving gifts to your spouse whenever you feel like it, not just when the calendar tells you to, and of course, always showing affection within those divine limits. It's really about building a love that lasts, not one that's just for a season.
There's also a pretty practical critique here that focuses on the holiday's commercialism.
Islam really discourages being wasteful, and this verse from the Quran is often brought up in this conversation. It says that the wasteful are like brothers of the devils, which is a pretty strong statement against that kind of consumer-driven pressure we see with modern Valentine's Day.
So, let's circle back to the most crucial point, because it's worth repeating. The Islamic perspective isn't about suppressing our emotions. Not at all. It's about regulating them. It's about channeling them with a sense of responsibility, honor, and a higher purpose, all within the beautiful framework of marriage.
Okay, so let's bring all of these threads together. Let's revisit that big question we started with, but now let's look at it from a completely new angle.
So here are the key takeaways from our little deep dive. Number 1, Valentine's Day has non-Islamic religious and cultural roots. Number 2, its modern commercial culture can definitely conflict with Islamic values like modesty. 3, that big principle of Tashabbuh, not imitating other religious rituals, is a huge factor for many scholars. And finally, number 4, Islam champions a permanent, everyday kind of love within marriage, not a seasonal one.
And this is really the heart of the matter. The question was never, is love allowed in Islam? I mean, of course it is. It's seen as a divine gift. The real question, the one we should be asking, is this. Is this specific method of expressing love, with all of its historical baggage and commercial pressure, is it aligned with Islamic guidance? And that is definitely something to think about.